The year is 1453, and the walls of Constantinople are shaking for the first time in 1,000 years, not from earthquakes, not from nature,
but from cannons so powerful, the earth itself seems to flinch every time they fire. Distant explosions echo across the horizon.
Inside the city, people wake up to silence, the kind of silence that feels wrong after endless bombardment and uncertainty fills air. Churches are full, streets are crowded, and everyone is asking the same question without speaking it aloud. Fear spreads through city. How long until the end? Whispers echo in minds no one dares speak it openly, as doom approaches inside trembling city. Because beyond the walls stands an army that has been waiting for centuries, and this time, history is not repeating itself. It is finishing itself forever. The final cycle closes as fate completes its course over the ancient city of Constantinople.
And in the middle of it all, the last emperor of Rome prepares for a battle he cannot win, but refuses to abandon.
What happens in the final days of a city that once ruled the world will change everything you think you know about empires. To understand what is about to happen, you need to see what Constantinople once was in its former glory as a legendary imperial city.
A city built to be the new Rome, the jewel of the Byzantine Empire, and one of the most heavily fortified cities in the medieval world.
For over 1,000 years, it had survived siege after siege, standing like an unbreakable wall between East and West. By 1453, however, that golden age had faded, leaving only memory of past greatness. The empire had shrunk to little more than the city itself and a few surrounding lands by this time, remaining territories. Yet the name still carried weight. Constantinople was still seen as the heart of Christianity in the East, throughout the region. Inside its walls, Emperor Constantine XI ruled a city on borrowed time, knowing its fate was uncertain as tensions rose. Outside those walls, the young and ambitious Mehmed II was preparing something history had never seen before in military history. An army not just built to conquer, but to erase entire civilizations it faced from history itself, leaving nothing behind. The city itself, Constantinople, stood like a relic of a dying world, surrounded by a rising empire that moved with unstoppable momentum. And in April 1453, the siege began, marking the start of one of history's most decisive battles ever recorded. What followed would become known as the fall of Constantinople, but at this moment, it was simply the beginning of the end. At first, the defenders believed the walls would hold, as they always had through centuries of endless sieges and wars. Massive stone fortifications, layered defenses, and centuries of engineering made Constantinople nearly impossible to breach by any invading army. Armies had come before and failed, broken against its defenses, leaving behind only wreckage and forgotten history. But this time was different, as Mehmed II brought something the city had never faced before in all its history: Enormous bronze cannons designed to shatter stone itself with each blast that echoed like thunder across the battlefield. Each blast tore chunks from ancient walls, sending shockwaves through ground and fear into defenders' hearts inside city. Inside the city, panic spread slowly like a sickness through streets once filled with confidence and life. Food supplies were running low, reinforcements were non-existent, and hope was beginning to fade inside the besieged city. Yet the greatest conflict was not just outside the walls, but inside the minds of the people trapped within. Some believed divine intervention would save them at the last moment, as it had in legends of old. Others began preparing for evacuation or surrender, accepting that the city's fate might already be sealed. Soldiers on the walls simply kept watching the horizon, waiting for the next explosion to break the fragile silence. Outside, Mehmed II tightened the noose as ships blocked the harbor and troops surrounded every gate. And the cannons never stopped firing, sending constant thunder across the battlefield, day and night without pause. The message was clear. There would be no retreat, no negotiation, only collapse awaiting the ancient city. And as the walls cracked deeper each day, one truth became impossible to ignore for everyone inside Constantinople. Constantinople was no longer resisting its fate. It was only witnessing its inevitable end approaching from beyond the walls. Every morning, dust hung in the air like fog as damaged walls were hastily repaired by exhausted citizens and soldiers together. Citizens worked along soldiers, carrying supplies while praying silently as thunder echoed endlessly from Ottoman cannons. The city felt alive in a strange, desperate way, like a body refusing to accept that it was slowly dying. Church bells rang constantly as priests moved through streets offering blessings to soldiers and civilians alike. Soldiers rotated endlessly along the walls, their armor worn and their faces hollow from exhaustion. At night, fires burned on both sides of the siege as both armies prepared for the coming final confrontation. Outside, Mehmed II's forces studied every weakness, every crack, and every moment of hesitation in the city's defenses. Then came the whispers of tunnels, secret passages, and final escape routes no one truly believed would work. The emperor himself walked the walls during these days, not as a ruler above his people, but as one of them. Constantine XI knew what was coming, yet he refused to leave despite every warning and every opportunity. Because for him, this was not just a city, it was the last heartbeat of Rome itself. And he would not let it stop without witnessing it with his own eyes beside his people. On the night of May 28th, everything went quiet. A silence more frightening than any cannon fire. Inside Constantinople, candles flickered in churches as thousands gathered together for one final service before dawn. The air was heavy with incense, prayer, and unspoken fear as families prepared for uncertain tomorrow. Soldiers embraced their families while friends said goodbye without words, knowing the final battle was near.
Outside the walls, Mehmed II prepared his final command, while the city waited in fearful silence.
Then, before dawn broke, the assault began, and the silence vanished beneath overwhelming violence and noise. Wave after wave of Ottoman soldiers charged the weakened walls as cannons roared and arrows darkened the sky. The earth itself seemed to collapse beneath the weight of movement, noise, and destruction surrounding the city.
The defenders fought like men who already understood they were becoming legends in their final hour. For a brief moment, the city held, and hope flickered once more across the battered defenses. But then a breach opened, a gap where ancient stone finally surrendered to fire and time. Through that opening came the enemy, and the battle transformed instantly into uncontrollable chaos inside the city. Fighting turned to chaos as streets became battlegrounds and smoke swallowed entire districts of the city. The sound of steel echoed through places that had not heard war for centuries before that day. And somewhere within that chaos, the emperor fought among his soldiers, refusing to surrender or retreat. He disappeared into the storm of battle like any other man, refusing to abandon his city. By sunrise, the impossible had happened. Constantinople had fallen, and an age had come to an end. The Roman world in its final form ended not with silence, but with thunder across history. When the fighting stopped, what remained of Constantinople was almost unrecognizable beneath smoke, ruin, and silence. Churches were no longer sanctuaries, and streets, once filled with life, stood quiet beneath a new rule. The city that once called itself eternal now belonged not to empire, but to history itself. Mehmed II entered the city not as a destroyer, but as the ruler of a new era. Constantinople would later become Istanbul, the center of a rising empire that would shape centuries to come. But something deeper had changed than borders or names, something that reached across the centuries. With the fall of the city, the last major stronghold of the Byzantine world disappeared forever. The idea of the Roman Empire, alive for over 1,000 years in the East, finally came to an end. Yet the city did not vanish, and its story continued beneath layers of time and memory. Its walls still stand in places, its churches still echo with memory, and its streets still carry history. And its story remains one of history's most powerful reminders that even the greatest walls are not eternal. Time always finds a way through, no matter how powerful an empire believes itself to be. Now imagine you were inside those walls during the final week of Constantinople, watching history unfold around you. Would you have stayed and fought, or tried to escape while there was still time remaining? That question still haunts historians today. Not just how the city fell, but how people faced the end. An entire world was ending, and ordinary people had to decide how they would meet it. Tell me in the comments, would you have stood with Constantine XI in the final defense of the city? Or would you have searched for a way out before the cannons finally broke through the walls? If you want more cinematic journeys into lost empires, forgotten battles, and legendary civilizations, make sure to subscribe. Next time, we travel to another empire standing on the edge of extinction, where history almost changed forever.
And remember, every great empire believes it will last forever until the moment it no longer does.